no MPs, and you just blanket it like that. MPs,
actually, you report them before you...
So you have received goodies and taken them to your constituency?
I have said coffee and
Honorable Winnie.
And it is for all members of parliament.
Honorable.
And it's not that I will receive a call as Winnie, and they say, Winnie, here is your coffee. No, they give us letters, all of us, to assist the government to deliver.
In the midst of all this, what does the president's letter offer? 2, what does Kitutu's lone suffering also suggest?
I think the president's letter to the prime minister, who is also an accomplice in the matter, is misguided. They are institutions that fight graft. Why doesn't he just take the advice of these institutions that fight graft? You know, he's at a point where his stance on corruption is going to either be accepted or we say it is just business as usual, because we have seen him mask many people who have done corruption. He has masked many. We have seen the sagas of Tema Angalo. We have seen the sagas of Lubowa. We have seen many. Everybody is aware of these corruption scandals, to the extent that when the IGG was saying we are going to audit lifestyle, he said, as long as the thieves can use the money within Uganda, you don't have to touch them. The other day when she said, I want to touch the army, he said, there are some things that you should not touch. So I will say President Museveni has not really done much.
So is he in a sense providing a soft landing for the culprits?
But if he was to even provide a soft landing for the culprits, like Mwanga Chivumbi said, for now, Ugandans were expecting that as Kitutu Tassel is it in the prisons, he should have relieved her of the ministerial duties. To say, at least for now, my minister, after all, she has said that I concede. His brother was caught with the iron sheets. This time there is no saying we still regard her as innocent. The presumption of innocence is not there anymore. That one should have been relieved of her duties if he was so serious on corruption.
Why Kitutu alone?
No, because Kitutu was now the one handing over the iron sheets. That one abused the office seriously. Like Mwenda is saying, maybe the others you may say they were called. But if they were called, they should also have known.
So do you equally agree that there are some unconscious beneficiaries?
I will not say that they are unconscious beneficiaries. You can't take something you don't know where it is coming from. If you just take it because you have been called and you don't bother to ask where did it come from, you have a problem.
Well, why is the president's letter causing all this kind of controversy, in your opinion?
Let me first of all go to the old man of the clan. I will excuse him because I'm not aware that he has ever worked in government, and therefore probably he doesn't know
procedures.
How government works. Government runs on laws, on procedures, on policy. The law governing financing of government activities is clear. If somebody gives me fuel, I'm at the Uganda Media Center, somebody gives me fuel from UPDF without clear regulations, that would be abuse. Or gives me money from the police to do media center work, I would be still doing government work, but it is irregular. They would be held responsible for diversion.
So who would be culpable?
Both of us, eventually. But of course, the person who gives me resources from their department would be more culpable. And
so you would be unconscious?
And therefore, the argument of Mwenda doesn't fly at all. Secondly, in this particular instance, you remember when the scandal broke out, first of all, let me repeat that this was exposed primarily by internal security and the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. And they planted a trail once they picked information that there was mischief about to start happening. That's why things have been got in a little more detail. That the vehicles, that the cheats, the SMS, the WhatsApp messages, the vehicles that were picking iron sheets were all meticulously recorded. And therefore, the people, the ministers who are trying to be clever by half, to say they were only called, items were only delivered, they are not being serious. They could actually be charged with perjury, not telling the truth, telling lies to the police, to the investigators. Therefore, I think those ministers should actually come out clean and recant the early statements they made. In the case of Honorable Ugorobi, for example, when the media went to ask him if he was among those who received the iron sheets, he first said no. When they confronted him with the evidence, the list, then he said, I've given to the church. Then when they asked him to name the church, he could not name the church. Then they said, we are told the sheets are on your goat houses. He refused to open the gate, his gate, the gate of his farm. Then through concerted efforts, he was compelled to open his gate. And they took photograph of the mabati on the roof of his goat farm. And when it became clear that he could no longer defend what he had been saying, you saw what he did? He de-roofed. As if when you de-roof, the mabati is going to be reused again for roofing a residential house. So, Mwenda, please, I think on behalf of government, really this is embarrassing that this huge group of leaders, ministers, whatever, members of parliament, essentially most of them from the NRM party, are the ones who have been caught in this web. It's embarrassing, and it doesn't do good to try and defend the indefensible. We may not attack the recipients, but we should not defend them either, in my view. They should be left to carry their cross. Thirdly, during investigations, Honorable Mwenda prides himself to be a good journalist in investigations. He should be able to know that state agencies conduct telephone trails, telephone logs, who called who on which day, how many times, who visited who. In these days, many of these offices actually have CCTV cameras. It is possible that all these footages could have already been picked by the investigators. Who visited Kitutu, how many times, what were they discussing? All this could be on the...
But as investigators get to the heart of the scandal,
yes,
do you think the president's
I'm coming. Why did the president say, don't even investigate because the matter is known? Because I think he read ahead, particularly the investigation in Parliament, he could have read that it was meant to muffle, because the group that had benefited heavily were in Parliament, and therefore they could have compromised the investigation in Parliament. And compromising investigation in Parliament is not a new phenomenon, it's a regular occurrence. Only recently, you know that the investigation on the school fees issue was thrown back because it was mismanaged by the people who went to the field and therefore I think the president read ahead. But also, why do we need to investigate? If we did not investigate, how would we have known that there were backbenchers who received? Because you remember, initially when the story broke out, it was only ministers. But now we know that 31 or 33 members of backbenchers received...
Yeah, but when you read the president's letter, it gives you a sense that...
I am coming to that. And therefore, if Mr. Mwenda interviewed or he had come to do whitewash, I think is a bad deal tonight. Now, the president's letter. The president's letter is a response, if you look at the address, is a response to the brief of the leader of government business in Parliament, the Prime Minister. In fact, it is a disagreement, or I can say the president was repudiating the explanation the Prime Minister was giving. I wish somebody could give us the Prime Minister's letter here.
I have it here.
Yeah, we would have seen the content of the Prime Minister's letter to the President, to the brief, which the President was disagreeing with in some elements, because the President was saying, regardless of the excuse the recipients are giving, what they did was tantamount to political subversion, because the purpose for relief item for Karamoja in this particular incident was very specific. For Mr. Andrew Mene should be able to know that ministers of government have what we call top management committees, including the Office of the Prime Minister. The top management committee of the Office of the Prime Minister is chaired by the Prime Minister and sits every Thursday. And this is how government runs. Money is released quarterly. And top management sits, both the political and the technical. They sit to decide the quantity of money available. What do we do? And therefore they portion. Therefore, the Prime Minister ought to know, and the Prime Minister and the ministers in the Office of the Prime Minister ought to know, if the money is available and we are going to buy mabati, how many mabati, what type of mabati, and for what purpose? It is not true that mabati, the minister for Karamoja, can pick Karamoja mabati and give to somebody in Toro, because Toro is not part of Karamoja.
But they were simply embossed with Office of the Prime Minister.
That's true, but
they were not marked Karamoja.
No, but that's why there is a procurement and requisition and delivery withdrawal system when you are requisitioning and delivery and so on and so forth. All that trail is available. The investigators now know if indeed in the last financial year or this financial year, Bunyoro Affairs actually did procure, budgeted for, and procured mabati, and they have distributed to who? That information, if it was done, is available. For Northern Uganda, is available. For Karamoja, is available. Listen,
I need to get to
Luwero. For Luwero and Resort is available.
Okay, fine.
And therefore, listen, the investigative details are available. You are asking what is the purpose for the presidency letter. I think it has two purposes. I would want to imagine that the president, and like many of us all would have imagined, that the people who are involved, particularly the ones whose cases appear to be prima facie, the case of Kitutu, the case of Nandutu, the case of Lugorobi, any reasonable mind would have expected them on their own to resign. Secondly, the ones who the president is using unconscious, who are also saying they were unconscious, they were called, they didn't know the origin, the source of the mabata and for what purpose. The president would have expected that somebody would have given some explanation, like the Right Honorable Kadaga did give an explanation.
Okay, let me get back to you. If you can let me get back to you.
I just want to wind up.
You've had sufficient time.
I just want to wind up with this. I think this is by the first time in the history, as far as you are breaking. No, you are breaking the rules because you are not the moderator. Go back to
Andrew Mendela.
Go back to Andrew Mendela.
So you are accusing others of not following rules.
This is the first time the president is writing and saying, I will take political action.
Okay.
I think he's giving them the benefit of doubt and time.
Mwenda, how do we
but I just first want to answer these guys, whatever. Because I don't believe in mob justice. These guys are involved in populism and mob justice. First.
Which guys? The entire
people on my right. Populism, appeal to public sentiment. First of all, the public, I'm really sorry. I am rarely on the side of the public. I don't like to... I don't
seems
want
to insinuate that you're spinning for someone.
Okay, I don't mind. Maybe Nabanja and what is this lady Among and others and Nandu too, they have sent me a lot of money. That's why I'm wearing a very nice suit tonight. So at least let's get that out of the way. It's a personal thing. Let's deal with it. I want people to listen to the content, the objective argument I am making rather than my subjective motivations, because they are irrelevant. In any case, these ministers are entitled to pay anybody to speak for them. If they have paid Andrew Mendela, so good. Here is the point. Because first of all, I have a contempt for Ugandan elites when they try to play holier than thou on practically every subject. This of Fono Pondo here, Winnie, and whatever there. Yes, let me begin with Winnie, because she spoke very well. What has been the practice? Government officers call members of parliament, including Chikuvumbi has been called. They are given government goodies. It doesn't matter whether iron sheets, goats, coffee, or beans. They take them to their constituencies. Haven't they admitted it? Let every parliamentarian who has ever received these things go to jail with Kitutu. Because, again, Winnie spoke very well. She said many times Government does not have the transport to take these goodies to your constituents. You know your constituencies need these goodies, you help them. The president has said that is political corruption because it enhances your politics. But the president goes giving around donations. Isn't that political corruption? Who is the master of patronage in this country more than Yoweri Museveni?
So nobody is holier than thou?
No, what I'm simply saying is people are trying to deny the existence of something called politics. In every society, you go even to Israel or Norway or Denmark, members of parliament negotiate for resources for their constituencies. The question could be, were they directed to those constituencies in a legitimate, legal way?
Because what we're discussing is diversion.
Yes, this is what I'm going
diversion.
to. Yes, this is what I'm coming to. Because Kivumbi spoke very well, technically. But let's come to factually. The government of Uganda arranges for iron sheets for the last 17 years, 16 years, since 2007. And they're distributed to the following marginalized communities: Teso, Karamoja, Rwenzori, Luwero, and Bunyoro. In the budget, Mr. Kivumbi, the government of Uganda budgeted for iron sheets for those areas, including my granddaughter's area. Am I correct, Winnie?
Why is it the
Rwenzori,
listen, not given on these Mabatis?
But that is a second.
Why
that's a second
did
question.
they receive under
Okay,
Rwenzori?
I will come to it.
Or they think Rwenzori is no longer marginalized?
I have noted your question on my phone. Two. Yes, I'm noting on this phone. Two.
Because Rwenzori is among the marginalized
Mr.
groups.
Okay, I will protect you. I will protect Andrew. Please allow Andrew to make his submission. Please go ahead.
Clearly, you have exposed the fact that as a grandfather, I failed to nurture my own granddaughter to have manners in the debate.
No, you know when a grandfather is a lying one, and one who tries to make dirty things look clean. No, that's not the grandfather you know.
So this is the point. There are iron sheets budgeted for different areas that are considered marginalized, northern Uganda, things like that. We all know it. It's in the budget. Right now, I can take this TV crew tomorrow to Namamve, to the stores in Namamve. In those stores, we shall find iron sheets for Karamoja, iron sheets for Teso, iron sheets for Rwenzori, iron sheets for Bunyoro, iron sheets for Luwero.
What is key here is
that
that iron sheets for Karamoja were diverted to other places.
Yes.
The president calls subversion.
Because in the stores, there are 81, the iron sheets for Karamoja, I must mention, were 105,000. 81,000 are still in the stores. In Namamve, we can go with the television crew tomorrow to see them.
By whose confession?
24,000 were given out. 4,000 of which were taken by Minister Kitutu and are unaccounted for. From my information, the 20,000 were distributed using UPDF. Now, let me come to these ministers and even assume for argument's sake that they took them from Karamoja. I am a minister for Luwero. I always am given, like Win has been given coffee before and other goodies to distribute in our constitution. Like Chivumbi has done it before, now thinks other ministers should not do what he has been given to do. They give me iron sheets for Luwero. They call me and say they're iron sheets. I always know I take iron sheets to Luwero. I send people to pick, ministers do not go to the stores and say, okay, this store is for Karamoja, this store is for Luwero, get from here. The people there get them from the store meant for Karamoja. What mistake have I made?
Without sounding casual, you know the procedure of obtaining state items.
Yes. Let me ask you, Winnie, when they gave you coffee, when they gave you pigs or whatever they gave you to deliver, did you go to the store and pick them yourself?
No, let me tell you.
Did you verify that they...
You want an answer?
No, wait.
You want an answer from Winnie? Please listen to her.
Let me give you the answer that you want.
You posed the question to Winnie. Please listen to her.
Kagwanjala, you are disruptive.
Okay, you posed the question to Honorable Winnie Kiza. Please spare a minute so that she responds. Okay, fine. Let her answer your question.
I'm coming to that. I'm posing rhetorical questions. Listen, you gave them 40 minutes to attack me. You have given me 3 minutes to respond.
No, but you posed the question.
You are interrupting me so much that I cannot put my point across. And remember me, I'm using not see on my phone. And I want you to be baptized with knowledge. Because right now you're arguing out of emotion. I am trying to tell you that yes, you may achieve public acclaim there because the public is angry, they want someone to hang. You are like those people, the Jews near Golgotha, before Pontius Pilate crucify him. Me, I'm saying, if you are going to crucify a minister, Lugolovi, You took iron sheets, put them on your personal house. That's abuse of power. Kitutu, your brothers and siblings were caught selling them in the market. If you are so and so, your Andrew Mwende took these iron sheets and put them on your private school for profit. You get it? That's abuse of office.
Anita.
Yes. I
Anita
don't know. Because from Anita Mong's explanation, what I know is she took iron sheets, she was called, she comes from a region, Bukedia. Bukedia receives iron sheets from the government of Uganda for the last 16 years. Her office was called. Here, the way Kivumbi was called, the way Kiza was called, they picked goods. I'm sure Kiza did not go to the store and say, show me the package for my constituency, Bukonzo North. And then they picked it and said, okay, here, come and carry it. You're asking too much of a minister. So if people at OPM made a mistake, instead of going to the Luero store and getting the iron sheets, and they got the iron sheets from the store of Karamoja, they're all
the big accusation is flouting procedure.
What procedure was violated?
Said it well.
What procedure was violated?
Said it well.
Because now
who was the distributor in the first place? You can't be called casually by PA.
But Winnie Keys has confirmed
let me tell you
that they get called. She has been called.
Let me tell you, Kagwanjala.
You can make your submission.
This one has been referring to the statement by Winnie Keys. I have said that statement, that this was an open invitation from government, that we have these things to take to Ugandans, wherever they are. But we don't have means of transport.
Yes.
You, the members of Parliament, first wait, we listened to you.
But you are not listening to me. Actually,
we call upon the members of Parliament to assist us in delivering the things to their constituencies. And all members of Parliament. They would say, from Bunyoro, we contracted so and so to give you the maize.
In this case, it was for ministers from marginalized areas.
Go to Kasese. They are already pre-qualified suppliers by National Coffee Development Authority. They will supply. So you would go to the qualified persons.
Using procedure.
Using the procedure, and actually they would even sign.
Which procedure?
They would even sign the documents.
Actually, let me help you. Even when you go to distribute coffee seedlings.
Yes, coffee seedlings.
Operation Wealth
Creation is there.
You will follow through. You have your 50,000, which you have said they are from one. You will pick them from a qualified person. Two, you will be from a specific regional office. Specific regional office. Nothing like general. Now this one is like giving a picture that down there in Namave is a house that is heavily disorganized. That iron sheets are there, you go to this store and pick. No, Andrew, and for maybe, a good day.
So let me
first wait, Mwanga Kivumbi.
Even if it is one.
There is a minister, wait.
Because I don't also want you to exaggerate how many of the iron sheets meant for Karamoja are missing.
Now, first wait. You want to tell us that the president is also not aware of how many iron sheets were meant for Karamoja?
The president is not always aware of everything.
Then that's why he should even leave office as soon as possible.
Why don't you get him out?
Because let me tell you.
So you are the problem, because
we are not.
No, I think that is diversionary. No, that is diversionary.
That is diversionary. What I was saying,
make your point.
Is that we have ministers.
Who said this. He said
you're becoming a heckler now.
When you have a grandfather who heckles.
Calm down, listen to her.
Okay,
please.
my granddaughter, I have given you the frog.
You know, when
has failed.
Mwenda is kind of thinking that Kituntu was the clearing officer for the Mabati, for all the regions of Uganda. For heaven's sake, there is a minister paid for Rwenzori Luwero. There is a minister paid for Teso Affairs. There is a minister paid for Bunyoro Affairs. There is a minister in charge of Buganda, Nebigenderako. There is one for Northern Uganda, and everything under Northern Uganda, the minister of Northern Uganda must know. Everything under Luwero, Rwenzori, the minister for Luwero, Rwenzori must be in the know. Everything for Karamoja, now the ministers for Karamoja must be in the know. Now, where you think that the Mabatis are for Karamoja, they are for Rwenzori, and they are hipped in a sack, therefore Kituntu was clearing the ministers of Rwenzori, what then is the role of the minister for Rwenzori Luwero Affairs? What is the role of the minister for Teso Affairs? And where you tell me that one of the ministers in the Luwero, in the Karamoja sub-region, was also called the Honorable Agnes Nandutu, who is supposed to be part of those supervising the docket.
Well,
and you think we should just cover the mess and we say, no,
thank you, Honorable Winnie. Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, there are also questions.
So you didn't give me a rate of reply.
Over, you reply, over the timing of the president's letter. At a time when Minister Kitutu is in Luzira, the president says, I'll take political action.
Yeah, you see.
Does it suggest that she's going down alone?
No. I think, you see, Andrew Mwenda, I know. And the one I went to school with. But I need to correct. The minister he was trying to move a vote of no confidence. The president was Taligola.
Not
Garigitho. Garigitho is Taligola.
So the man cannot even remember anything.
No,
why did you remember that?
Speak properly here?
Corrected. He was corrected himself. Did you even remember the one you session?
He's an old man. He can't remember. He's an old man. He can't remember.
You had also accepted that was Garigitho. And you said yes. And you were the one session.
What did you expect of an old man of 110 years?
Okay, proceed. Honorable.
Now, let's set standards for running public office, for heaven's sake. We are a banana republic, but there are things we can agree over, Andrew, and say these ones, there's no crossover. And let us not defend the indefensible. And let us not color certain things that lack color. I think, one, I want to agree with Mwenda Andrew once. One, what happens? Even when you are reporting a disaster, that in Butambala there has been a disaster, I'm required...
You reported the hailstone.
Hailstone.
Yes.
I'm required, first of all, not a politician, a cow, to carry out an investigation and officially write.
Yeah.
Okay? A politician is not supposed to report. A cow officially writes. For every government delivery system, there is a system where things are supposed to move. Even for public schools. Even the president says, this is who gave for public schools. There is a way public schools are built in Uganda. It's not through, cherry picking by politicians. So that is even wrong. So the president's letter also goes below the usual low standards is used to operate on. Very low standards. And if you have to reshape this country, then we've got to raise the standards. One, if the mighty cannot fall, then the lower ones will not follow. First of all the high-profile officers involved in this, why them about scandal, by the way, it's so sweet. You see, we've been grappling to explain to the people the extent of abuse and corruption of these other sophisticated ones in the billions. But this one is simple. Iron sheets for vulnerable people of Karamoja, it is a big thing. And it's a God sent to Uganda. Now, God sent for this, because we've been grappling with how to make people of Uganda understand how complete and comprehensive the brokenness of this government. And the response of the president makes it worse. By the way, a president worth his salt would first of all have remanded that the prime minister cannot be in office while this is happening. Please step aside for some time while investigations continue. So it's every minister involved. Actually, a mass exodus of this minister would have sent a clear signal that we no longer tolerate corruption. The fact that these gentlemen and ladies are still holding up to government positions is condoning corruption.
Do you think there is a way president is responding to the public uproar?
No. Even if he wants, let us expose the president. You see the president, if you were president, you are the chief executive of a country for one single day. For one single day, and you cannot hear, King cannot tolerate that level of behavior in this NBS. You do it, you are gone. But why do you tolerate it in public? Andrew Mwenda in his Frontline magazine, independent magazine there, this kind of behavior, he can't tolerate it for a minute. But in public offices, he says it is okay. and he comes in to color it with beautiful language.
The president said he had put in place a government of fishermen, but the fishermen are
going to
now
respond. I'll come back to you. I'm going to come back to you.
The president.
It's okay.
Even the
Opondo is the government spokesperson.
Even the president.
So we need to hear the government.
I am a spokesperson of the accused, you said.
Okay.
So even the president to say, is it political subversion? By government. If it is a subversion, you know what the President Museveni used to do for people who are doing that when they were in for political subversion? It was Kabazi.
What is Kabazi?
Okay, so they would be hanged. They would be hanged. The political subversion was punished. You go and ask this man of Karangal Action Plan, what happened to him? Kakoza Mutale, when he was accused of political subversion. You go and ask, you go and ask Nani. You go and ask Tinyefuza what happened when he was accused of political subversion. You go and ask General Kagame, your friend, what he was doing, what was his work in punishing people who were involved in
thank you, Honorable.
In the bush.
I'll certainly get back to you.
Mr. Kagwa, in the bush, political subversion was punished by almost killing. Here, he watched them staying in the government.
Please jot down every point, and I'll get back to you. I'll come back to you.
Yes, he's going to speak for 1 week.
Yes.
The president sounds very stern on corruption in his letter. He says this is political corruption. What are the chances that he's going to lay off his cabinet?
Well,
the fishermen and
first of all, let me respond to Honorable Kipumbi. He says in the bush, political subversion was dealt with differently, harshly. People were hanged and so on. That was the bush. Now we're in a country, we're in a government. We have the constitution, we have the law, we have procedures, and we must do things according to those standards.
Even there were laws.
Yes. No. Now we have standards.
But the mission was
established standards.
You could not sabotage.
We are going according to that. For now, everybody, including, by the way, Honorable Kitutu, is innocent until a competent court judges her otherwise.
But she has confessed.
She can confess. But she would need that confession in Parliament and so on, or even before the police, has to be taken again to the Chief Magistrate.
Why was Chitutu's file handled in haste compared to other files?
No. First of all, I think in the course of investigation led them to prime suspects. And I think they are dealing with the prime suspects first. This is what if I were an investigations officer, I have been one. By the way, that was I would do, and I think they're doing the correct thing. Now, I want to only respond to the issue of why are people still in office. First of all, they are still innocent as far as they are concerned, and also as far as the law is concerned. We leave it to them for now, and I think the president is also leaving it to them for now to take personal responsibility. Those who want to resign can't resign, or who feel so can't resign.
Isn't it giving too much latitude to culprits?
No.
Who've come out to confess.
Two, there are those who have walked half mile. The Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, by admitting that, yes, I took, but I took to a school in Bukedea. We have already roofed the house. We cannot remove it like Lugorovi. I have chosen to buy. Today, I'm aware that she brought back, and after due consultation, police was called in, and they received the Mabati. I don't know how they are going to treat the high return of the Mabati subsequent to the investigation.
Does it remove culpability?
No. I'm saying I don't know how it is going to be handled.
But in your opinion?
Yeah, but they have received. What I know is that they have received. Whether they will use it against her as evidence that she actually received the diverted materials of government is a different matter. But at least she has walked half the mile, in my view, and which is good. The other person is the Right Honorable Kadaga. She has admitted that I roofed a health center, a public health center, I roofed a school. It's a half distance. I heard from Yanus her saying that she will not return. But you know, a while back, Honorable Kadaga, while Speaker, she vowed that she will not return the other 29 million. You remember? But I think she eventually returned. She went to Kamuli and handed it to the cow. So I think also she's playing some gimmick, I think. I think she will eventually make good. Now, the people who are still in office, you remember the most recent case of the Honorable Herbert Kabafunzachi?
Yes.
His resignation forced upon him by circumstances that once you are charged, if you're a minister, you automatically fall by the wayside. You don't even actually need resignation not to be sacked. That's the regulation, that's the law. So Honorable Kitutu has been charged in court. Doesn't even have to, the president doesn't have to say, I have sacked you. But also, let us go by precedent. You remember the case of the Gavi funds, the 3 ministers? I don't think the president publicly announced that he had sacked those 3 ministers. You remember the case of Chogam, of the Honorable, of His Excellency Gilbert Bukenya? The president didn't say, I am removing you because of the issues of Chogam. But a reshuffle came.
It's automatic.
Yeah, a reshuffle came, and subsequent to that, he was charged. You remember the cases of the treason cases, you were still young, 1986, the one of Evaristo Nyanzi, Luanga, Andrew Kayira, Lutaya, and others. You remember the one of the Maratubos, 1991, Zachary Lumu was Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Ambrose Okuru, who was also Deputy Minister of Agriculture. So you remember the case of Honorable Joseph Kemu, who was Attorney General and MP for Kalaki County, who was charged for frauding the process of TESO compensation, the 100 million, you remember? He was removed. The president didn't publicly announce and gave reasons why he, and I think his statement that first of all he said there will be, let us leave the police to take the legal process and the DPP. But even those that he described and didn't take consciously, I'll take political action.
Well,
I think by this, he's actually, the writing is on the wall. I think now it is up to the affected people to say, how bold is my writing so that I jump before I am pushed?
Well, thank you very much. Andrew Mwenda.
Oh, finally.
What scenarios are you looking at now that the president has announced that he will take political action? One, the fate of Kitutu. She seems to be in the coolers alone, yet there are several other culprits.
Well, I first want to come to the facts, because I think people here discuss with emotions, not facts. My granddaughter, Windy, let me give you the list of INCs that were meant for these other areas. This is from, and Kivumbi. This government allocation, we're saying, Northern Uganda prepaid 19,170 iron sheets. TESO prepaid 4,982. Luweru, 6,956. Disaster preparedness, 23,000, blah, blah, blah. Right? Currently, the distribution of energy has been postponed. Now, listen to this. Here is a letter, Winnie, you are talking about to ministers to be involved, from the Minister of Bunyoro to MPs. The Office of the Prime Minister, through Bunyoro Affairs portfolio, has procured iron sheets to be distributed to religious institutions, schools, and vulnerable youth, women, elderly, and people with disabilities in Bunyoro sub-region. The purpose of this letter is, therefore, to request you to collect 100 iron sheets from the OPM stores for your onward distribution, blah, blah, blah. So I just want you to know that there was in the budget, as you said, iron sheets allocated to marginalized groups, marginalized areas, which were, they were...
No, we call them affirmative.
Or affirmative groups, very good, to be distributed. Because what I'm trying to avoid here, I'm not saying that every person who took these iron sheets is innocent. I'm simply saying, stop this blanket condemnation of people who received iron sheets. What we need to do is to say, you took the iron sheets. Let me assume they were meant for Karamoja, but when they wrote to you or called you to collect them, because you received them from, as a member of a constituency like Win here and Kivumbi have been previously called, the person in the store gave you those of Karamoja.
Naively.
Maybe by mistake. You see, first of all, I do not want to rule out a mistake. Me, Andrew Mwenda, I'm a man of many faults. That's why I reject people who stand in a holier than thou grounds. So, let me assume, instead of picking iron sheets from the office of Bunyoro, they picked them, or Luweru, they picked them from the office of Karamoja, but they went and served a government function. This person did not take them to their home. They took them to a community center, a government hospital, or a church school which serves the community. What has government of Uganda lost for us to be calling, hang them, hang them? And in any case, by the way, I am very keen also, I'm not a very keen person on this, where you place a procedure, a technical procedure above the purpose it is supposed to serve. This obsession with procedures is a gotcha attitude, that somehow we want to get someone, then we hide behind the procedures. Procedures can be arcane and self-contradictory.
Simply saying that the iron sheets didn't disappear.
No, we must establish. They have said clearly that Honorable Kitutu took iron sheets, gave them to her siblings, they sold them in the market. If that is true, she should be taken to jail and punished for it. 2, they have said Honorable Golobi took iron sheets and put them on his shed. You get it? That is punishment. But if Andrew Mwenda
is also vulnerable.
Thank you so much for that. But if Andrew Mwenda, Minister of Tourism and Culture,
didn't he say he was an orphan? And therefore was entitled to anything that was going to
you are failing your job today to protect.
Go ahead.
So if Andrew Mwenda, Minister for Culture and Ofono Affairs, was called and said, you come from a we call it affirmative community, affirmative action community. The Irish is here for your community. He picked them and they served the function of government. But the store from which they picked them was not for a community called Tororo, but was for a community called Teso. I find that then they can go back to the stores and remove from Teso and reimburse Tororo. Because what we are doing here is really trying to hang people without exercising fairness, balance, impartiality, objectivity.
Well, is that how government runs?
Yes, government should run like that.
Casually?
Not casually. Because if
you misallocate from here.
It is not a misallocation. I'm saying if a mistake was made, because what is the purpose of government is to serve a certain particular public role. Assuming there is a marginalized community in Karamoja, it was located iron sheets. There is another one in, let's say, Toro. It was located iron sheets. But when I was called and I went to the stores, I sent my agents to the stores, the iron sheets they picked were not for Toro, but they were for Karamoja. And innocently, I assumed they were for Toro, I took them to Toro. And they served the very role they're supposed to play. Iron sheets are what we call, they are fungible.
The key word here is innocent.
Listen, there is something we say.
Innocently.
Exactly. And that's what the president is saying unconsciously. He should have said innocently. Let me give you an example. There's something we call fungibility. I have money in my wallet here. I think it's 20,000 shillings because I'm a poor man. Assuming
with a nice
I gave you 20,000 shillings.
I told you the suit was
this is a bribe I just received from these ministers. The speaker, Betty Among, I think the Minister of Finance, he controls the money, so he gave me money. Then the Prime Minister, they bribed me. So that's why I'm speaking like this. But follow my facts. Because they are also entitled to hire a public relations person maybe to defend them. You get it. But let me come to the point. The point is this. Assuming Chikagwanjala, I gave you 20,000 shillings to go and keep for me. When I come to collect it, do you need to give me the very notes I gave you? Because money is fungible. You can give me any 20,000, it has the same value. So if a mistake was done, iron sheets meant for Karamoja were taken to Bunyoro, reimburse the Karamoja store from the Bunyoro store. It's an innocent mistake. The purpose is, was government purpose served? To say that the procedure should be above the purpose. The procedure is meant to serve the purpose. If a procedure suffered a mistake, but the purpose was served, the public good was served. Just a second. I have letters here, someone has sent me, of a school in Bunyoro, which Kaseja took iron sheets, I think last year, 300 iron sheets, donated them to a government school, and provided last year accountability for the school that were put there. Assuming they came from Karamoja, go to the Bunyoro stores and reimburse Karamoja. What is a hula baloo about? So what I am saying is, please, guys, understand me. I'm not saying...
I think this is the very question I should ask.
Why do you interrupt me when you give others 500 hours?
No, I have given you
no, my
8 minutes.
No,
You've been speaking for 8 solid
those
minutes.
guys have spoken for 1 week.
Okay,
great.
Okay, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you shortly.
Please,
Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi.
My last point, the last point I was trying to make is this. That the public out there should not get the idea that Mwenda is saying everybody is okay. Because me, I know Ugandans tend to understand things all for or none. I am not saying ministers are innocent. I'm simply saying if somebody is guilty, like Tutu or Golobi or any other person you can add on, let us identify their culpability, the facts that make them guilty. But this blanket condemnation of everybody, hang them, fire them, I disagree with it. I don't agree with Cruz. Hold a second. I don't agree with mob justice. Yes, but I have been waiting here.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Let me finish. The Speaker of Parliament, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, at least those that I have interviewed, I have listened to and found that actually they did nothing wrong. In fact, I should have said that the Speaker should not even have returned the iron sheets. She took the iron sheets, they served the government role. Why should she return them?
Well, while all this hula balloon makes the country go hoarse about iron sheets, will the Karamajong ever get the iron sheets?
First of all, I think let us not try to simplify things. Andrew Mwenda is like giving an impression that you see in the government.
By the way, the letter I was reading was sent by Ndamuyangu Kacha Jaffes, MP, Minister of State for Bunyoro Affairs. You are saying these ministers were not aware.
No.
If you can just give me a second. Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, I'm going to get back to you. Honorable Winnie Kiza, just a second, Honorable.
He wants to get back to this guy.
Andrew says, for as long as the iron sheets served their purpose, why do we go hoarse? Why do we shout, crucify, crucify?
You know, there is a reason why a budget is made. And there is a reason why votes are created. When they create votes, and they put specific people to control these votes, it's for purposes of managing what Mwenda doesn't want to be managed. It's for purposes of ensuring that there is transparency, there is accountability, and that services are given to the areas where they are due or they are supposed to be given. Now, when Mwenda insists that we should stop mob justice, for heaven's sake, nobody is interested in mob justicing, if that word exists. There is nobody who intends to hang these members of parliament and these ministers. And indeed, like you are saying, if these members of parliament were receiving the iron sheets from a budget that was in their docket, or were receiving iron sheets that belonged to their communities, I will say well and good. However, I told you that if all these mabatis that were given out belonged to the people of Karamoja, like the supplementary budget was meant to clear, it's very unfortunate that you use the vulnerability of people to service your own desires. If they knew that Rwenzori, for example, was vulnerable, Teso was vulnerable, why didn't they make it clear that the mabati are for Teso, but they come to a supplementary? But now, you know, all of them were saying we're receiving calls from Kituntu. Now the letters are just being shown here. That now some of them received by you, the spokesperson,
my granddaughter,
that the letters are coming from Rwenzori, the letters are coming from Karamoja, and I am asking how many of the MPs of Rwenzori sub-region received some of these mabatis. If the mabati went to Bunyoro, they went to Teso, and they were coming from the different dockets, I will have no problem. Because that is what it is supposed to be.
Honorable Winnie Kiza, does it strike you at all that the president can get rid of his blue-eyed cabinet of fishermen and women?
You know, at the beginning of this, this term, when Ugandans were skeptical about the type of cabinet that Museveni has assembled, he said, yes, it is a cabinet of fishermen and women. I'm not surprised that they have fished Mabati this time. Ugandans should be careful whether we are not the next people they will fish. Because when they go to touch the marginalized communities, the vulnerable persons, remember, you still remember here, Ofono Pondo, when they said there is a budget of 25 billion that they had earmarked for the people of Karamoja to sort their hunger. The money never reached. And it was said here that they had given them that money. Now it is the Mabati. So we don't want people to use the pain that others are going through, to enrich themselves. We don't want people to use the vulnerability of others to enrich themselves.
Thank you very much.
So what we are saying, Kagwanjala, is that Museveni is on trial as to whether he's really so serious on fighting graft. If he's serious on fighting graft, this is now the case that is before him. If he is not, we shall still see it now.
When you trace back the chronology of events and the history of this entire saga, it is a government agency that broke the news. Does it suggest to you that there is some bit of self-cleansing within government and they should take the credit themselves? Plus, of course, the president is up to something in trying to get rid of corruption.
First and You're foremost, asking the wrong guy, the wrong question. First and foremost.
Wait your turn.
When it is fighting for credit, okay? I mean, I think it was put by Saleh, General Saleh, that, you know, credit has many fathers and failure is an orphan. Now, every government agency now will come and say, I fought this Mabati, I fought this Mabati. Everyone that has never delivered on anything. This is the occasion. So I don't want to go into that. Because earlier, there was an illusion that this was being exposed by the now late Keith Mhakanis. I had that kind of thinking.
From when?
From when? The interview of many people. He was giving that kind of
standards Keith Mhakanis built in the office of the Prime Minister have led
to this exposure. Yeah. That's what I found Andrew trying to articulate.
That's true.
Now, Ofono Pondo says, no, this work was done by the anti-corruption unit at the office of the president, blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying, now that there is some success, there are many fathers. Now, there are many fathers, and I'm not going to whoever did that. That's for another day. The question is, as a country, one, I think what you demand of a chief executive and a president is to hold government officials to particular high levels of standard.
And he's committed to that. By and that's saying why, and he's that's taking why political action.
Harry Truman put it right. Harry Truman put it right, says, the buck stops with me. The buck stops with, and it was a thing on his desk, the buck stops with me. Finally, all the corruption in this country, all the things that are going, the chief executive of Uganda is the president. For any single minute he condones it, he's as guilty as the corrupt. You see, for any single minute he does. For even Ofono, you see Ofono, certain things are done for determined purposes. The president saying, I've sacked a minister, okay, who is properly engaged in corruption, is to send a message to the whole country. You say, no, in a general reshuffle, I'll reshuffle you and reshuffle you. You go quietly.
Yeah, but
you go quietly. That's why.
The president is respecting systems.
No.
He says, I'll also take political action once the police has concluded their investigation.
Yes, when he chooses. Quite often, the president says, I will resort to my Ruwero methods. Quite often, when there's been a crisis.
I want to agree with Kivumbi. I think at Museveni's problem, when I read his letter, Museveni's problem with corruption is either because of political expedience, he wants to treat corruption as a legal technicality rather than a political problem.
Yes.
And therefore, he needs to respond to corruption as a political problem, but he hides or he shields himself with this due process and all this. I don't think you can fight corruption that way.
You see, when you are going to fight corruption and you're a chief executive, they should even read your face. I say, this one I've done, I will not enter even that man's office. He's going to fire me. That's what, I mean, as a father at home, if you set standards, that things should be so. Children know right from home, this one I don't want to see my father. Let me disappear.
Quite often when we are young and you know you've done wrong, you will try to say, over dinner I will disappear, I will not be around. Because you know.
A good father will call, where's Kivuvi?
He will call, but you are nowhere to be seen. You are nowhere to be seen. You are nowhere to be seen because you know what is going to happen. No, I think the president, why we have lost it, because you see, we have reported scandal after scandal. From Chogam to whatever. He has narrated scandals after scandal. The chief government spokesperson. The question is, why have they persisted on his watch? One scandal is because of these behavioral tendencies. Corruption, this is not about legal. It's about taking a political action. These are political leaders. Legality will come later. You can imagine Trump in America is being taken to court. For what? For paying a girlfriend money, using his lawyer, and, you know, simple case. Ex-president exposed, taken to facing criminal charges. So those are the standards we must set. And the president is failing. And that's why he has always failed to fight corruption. And in a process, let me say why. You see, the moment the country became obsessed and the president became obsessed with staying in power forever, he can tolerate anything.
Well, I just want to remind our viewers that shortly we'll be going on Afro Mobile, so you can follow the show. We'll have an extra 10 or 15 minutes on Afro Mobile. Download the Afro Mobile app and get steady. Follow us. Well,
Yes, please.
Do you see a sense of the president being held at ransom by his own cabinet?
Absolutely not. Let us simply go by character, stature in the country. Who of the people mentioned do you think is holding ground on their own? Which one? The vice president? The speaker? The prime minister?
Yeah, they are representing interests. Strong interests.
Uncle Kasaija? Mm-hmm. You remember when my elder sister Species was here, you people said women and Catholics and Busoga. When my elder brother Kenya was here, you said Catholics and Buganda. Did you say so? When my elder brother, Right Honorable Amon Bawazi, you said historicals, Shiga, and remember you said he's the one who was holding the anchor, the sail of the NRM. So please, from experience, nobody, no group of people can effectively hold Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni to ransom.
What explains his indecision?
Museveni, not indecision, Museveni plays by his rule, taking into consideration national rules, and usually strikes hard when least, sometimes when least expected. Who of you? That's why you say, Honorable Win here says that they had doubts. Who of you expected that the Right Honorable Nabanja would be the Prime Minister and that the Right Honorable Kadaga would even ever accept to be a Deputy Speaker, rather Deputy Prime Minister? So please, Museveni is his own man. I think from his experience, he knows how he balances the legalese and the realpolitik, so that at the end of the day, the decisions don't endanger.
He seems to be approaching this delicately.
Of course, if you're a serious leader...
What would be the stakes if you're a
serious leader, you should hold this delicately, but firmly. Is he firm? Are we in a normal situation where three top people following the president, the vice president, the speaker, the prime minister, never mind that they have pleaded their innocence, and a group of 22 ministers and 31 members of parliament have been mentioned, and the public thinks that all of them should go. Is it a normal situation so that you just casually handle it? So I think the president is taking many things into consideration, which I think
the public is crucified.
Yeah.
The assembly that is
So
crucified.
that's why the president must move cautiously to deal with the legalism. You have established the rule of law. Therefore, you must give people the benefit of doubt to the fullest.
Yeah, but,
so that when you take action...
Why is the rule of law striking Chitutu before others?
I just explained to you that even from an ordinary point of view of an investigator, you start with where the case is obvious, especially where somebody has admitted. In the case of Chitutu, for example, she went to call the press conference, went to the Committee of Parliament herself and admitted, but put her right, they said she was not properly advised. So that's the extent. Secondly, she is the principal person. She is the one in charge of managing Karamoja affairs, managing the Mabati, managing the goats, and all the other things. And therefore, really in this case, the first back should stop with her and undo.
I need to tell our viewers out there that we are crossing to Afro Mobile. The conversation is going to continue on Afro Mobile, and we'll have an extra few more minutes.
NBS Frontline. NBS. Always. Up next.